which are tasked to determine the safety and effectiveness of medical drugs. This is like accusing them of not following the law, which they are bound to uphold. It connotes that the government, and even our government from the Bureau of Drugs and Administration, is not doing its job in promoting the welfare of our people for approving medicines or drugs with side effects. Give something that needs technical expertise and scientific evidence to those who really know it. Finally, Madam Speaker, distinguished colleague, allow me to end this session with saying that there's no conspiracy between us, doctors, and even the RH advocates, the pharmaceutical companies, and the foreign governments. Allow me to refresh the memory of many of us. Yours truly has been a prominent face in the passage of the Cheaper Medicines Act. Alam po ninyo yon at alam po ng lahat nating kasamahan paano ko, kasama yung aking ibang mga kasamahan dito, paano namin ipinaglaban ang Cheaper Medicines Bill. During the early stages of the debate, there were only a very few of us. Konting-konti lang po kami. Karamihan po nagtatago. And the lobby of the multinationals and the pharmaceuticals was so great. We were, of course, up against giants. And we have been thrown many accusations. Now, you accuse me and you accuse us of being their partners. My God, we have been accused of working hard for this advocacy just because of the ultimate goal of profiting at the end through the procurement of commodities. Ang baba naman po ng pananaw nyo sa amin. But then we still respect your views as much as I look at that as a slap on my personality. Madam Speaker, distinguished colleagues, isa pong malaking sampal ang sabihin na kami isinusulong ang panukalang batas na ito dahil gusto naming mamera. Hindi po ba andyan ako openly and prominently fighting for the Cheaper Medicines Act? If I would have done so, then I would have sacrificed legislation just for money. But I did not do that because we do not intend to do that, and we owe it to our people to legislate what is for our people and what is most beneficial to our people. Such accusation equates to a samurai being pierced through my aorta. Madam Speaker, distinguished colleagues, even the paper entitled Medical Issues by a certain Dr. Angelita Miguel Aguirre merits serious consideration. While I do respect her as a doctor, she is not the sole expert in determining the list of essential medicines. She is entitled to her own personal opinion, but her paper does not carry the endorsement of either the Makati Medical Society or College of Physicians. The data are old, sad. Doctors, Madam Speaker, distinguished colleagues, we have been taught to put our patients first, foremost, and not our own personal interests. Everyday life is replete with examples of how doctors and their patients use risk-benefit analysis to arrive at a decision on treatment of disease conditions. Kagaya po ng iba nating pakilala, ang dami po sa atin mataas ang blood cholesterol. Binibigyan ba natin sila ng gamot? Yes. We give them statins. Ang daming gamot sa cholesterol na binibigay natin. Bakit? We give these medications because we don't want them to have heart attacks. We don't want them to have strokes. On the other hand, we also know that there are risks associated, and that is why we explain this fully to our patient, and that is why we tell our patient na pagka itong gamot na ibibigay namin, pwedeng ibigay pero may contraindications at may regular check-up. The same process is undertaken by the healthcare provider and his patient in arriving at the decision to use or not to use oral contraceptives as a family planning method. Kung merong hypertension ang pasyente, we don't give oral contraceptive pills. In fact, that is why it is mandatory to take the blood pressure of a patient before prescribing oral contraceptive pills. If she has blood dyscrasias o mga sakit sa dugo, we don't give them contraceptives. We advise them to use other methods. The doctor, and as a doctor, we explain to patients the advantages and disadvantages of everything, including contraceptives. And we arrive at a decision with a well-informed physician and patient relationship. In summary, Madam Speaker, distinguished colleagues, contraceptives are just like any other form of medical treatment. There are many forms available and none are perfect. They vary as to effectiveness, safety, and convenience, and each has its own advantages and disadvantages. All active drugs, including contraceptives, can cause some adverse effects in some users. And if safety were understood as a total, I repeat, if safety were understood as a total absence of adverse effects, then no drug could be called safe. Kung ang ating pong definition ng safety, yung isang gamot na wala talagang adverse effect or zero yung risk, wala po tayong gamot na masasabing safe. Because actually the safety of a drug in real world terms is conceived as a favorable ratio of benefits to risk for the population of users of the drug as a whole. In deciding to allow or prohibit the use of a drug or device, contraceptive or not, the predictable benefits of use must be determined and weighed against the potential risks. New data is constantly being produced in medical science, and the quality of the evidence generated varies so much that a new branch of learning, termed critical appraisal of medical literature, has evolved. Ang ibig ko po sabihin, meron po tayong experts termed and coined, participating in a new branch being called critical appraisal of medical literature. Because it is understandable that those who are not practiced, ibig po sabihin, yung pong magbabasa lang at hindi naman alam ang proseso, those who are not practiced in the discipline of rigorous analysis and evaluation of research results may make a mistake in interpreting data. And this, Madam Speaker, distinguished colleagues, is the sad fact that has been happening. I have been labeled by some as a taga-benta o as an agent of contraceptives. Madam Speaker, distinguished colleague, hindi naman po ako ganun at hindi po kami ganun. Kami lang po ay mga doktor na walang ibang gusto kundi buhayin at bigyan ng tender loving care yung aming mga pasyente. Thus, this work of interpreting data is best left to the appropriate expert, the Executive Department of Government, and in our case, we have the Department of Health and its agency, the Food and Drug Administration, and their experts and consultants. They should be entrusted with the responsibility of permitting and regulating the public use of a drug or device and given the space to perform their functions without interference from special interest groups and their lobbyists. Madam Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I heard some people telling me, "Nako, nagsisales stock ka lang, kaya ka nag-RH." Once again, I beg you, distinguished colleagues, let us avoid hasty generalizations. Let us study the issue carefully. There is a big difference between ignorance and total disregard for the truth. The former can be involuntary, but the latter is always deliberate. Allow me to close this, Madam Speaker, distinguished colleagues, by saying that doctors are not perfect professionals in this community, and nobody is. But at the end of the day, we all have our obligations to our patients. We deal with our patients in a very unique relationship we call the physician-patient relationship. Please do not let us look like criminals before people. Huwag niyo naman kaming lagyan ng pagkakamali na hindi naman namin ginagawa. If you were in our shoes, and mind you, we have prescribed contraceptives not only for those who would like to space their family, but we have used contraceptives to regulate the menstruation and to normalize the not normal, the abnormal, and the hormonal imbalance among patients and couples who would like to have babies. At the end of the day, we are here to save lives. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon po sa lahat.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that the speech of the Senior Deputy Majority Leader from Iloilo be referred to the appropriate committee.
Are there any objections? The chair, hearing none, the motion is approved.